Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben Anderson. Thanks for making us part of your day. What's going on over there, Ben?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. It's my now 4-year-old's birthday today.
Oh, shout out. You're getting out of the difficult phase.
I hope so.
You will. It happens. Hatch, how old's your youngest?
He's a year and a half.
Oh, so you're getting into it.
He's a bit of a pill right now.
Yeah, you're getting into it. And you're hopefully leaving it.
Yeah, and listen, she is the sweetest kid when she wants to be, but
Yeah.
she's got a little bit of that, three-nager thing going on, so hopefully she's grown out of that a little bit. But you know what's funny? I talk to you all the time, Ben, and the kids are so different one from another,
Sure.
right? So my 7-year-old really has this memory of a thing that we did for her on her birthday where my wife and I blew up all these balloons. And they were outside her door on her birthday. And she came out, and it was this great thing, and she has this memory and whatever. And she'd run through them and kick them or whatever. And so she wanted to do that for Maggie. So we blew up all these balloons and put them in the hallway. And then Maggie got up this morning, and she just doesn't wake up like Sadie did. Where she was like startled, and she's not a good waker-upper, if that is even a thing.
Sure.
And like... She didn't cry or anything, but she had like no clue what was going on. And then my older was expecting her to have like pure joy, and so it was this weird learning lesson. But then she eventually kicked through the balloons, and it was fine. But like I have the video, and her initial reaction is,
Confusion?
"I don't know what's going on,
right.
and I don't think I like it."
This is not what I'm used to.
And then we were kind of saying, "Happy birthday!" And then she kind of remembered, like, "Oh, it's my birthday. That's a good thing."
Yeah.
And then she kind of wandered through the balloons and then attached herself to my leg. And I was like, "Okay, I get it. Sorry."
We're out of diapers?
Oh, yeah. We've been out of diapers for a while.
For a while. Okay. Yeah, 4 is older. So, okay.
No, she's good with that. Very few accidents now, which is really nice.
Man, that last diaper, and Hatch is in it. Not a diaper, but still has diapers in the house. It's a good feeling. Not buying the diapers anymore is a great parenthood rite of passage.
Well, they are not cheap.
They're not cheap, and you have to be there you have to change them 5 times a day.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you're happy to move on from.
I agree, although I do tell people all the time diapers are not. Like, people who are thinking about being parents and be like, "Oh, no, the diapers." And it's like, it's not that bad.
It's not the mess aspect of it that's bothersome. It's just that, like, it's one fewer thing you have to do.
Yeah.
It's like when the kid can shower by themselves.
No, it's totally true. And it is inconvenient.
When the kids can get in the pool by themselves and you don't need to be watching them in the pool the whole time. Or my son rides his bike to his friend's house. He doesn't need a ride everywhere he goes now. Those steps are necessary.
And I've brought this up before, but I feel like I should bring it up again. The sexism against dads when it comes to diaper changing stations is absolutely offensive.
Okay. I haven't thought about this, but I'm willing to listen.
You go to wherever.
Sure.
And, all right, I'll go change the baby.
Yeah.
There's no diaper changing station in the men's room.
And if there is, it's all tagged up. It's never been taken care of.
I will deal with tagged up.
Sure.
I'm actually fine with tagged
the little
up.
koala station. Yeah.
Whatever. I can put down the pad. I'm fine with dirty. I'm fine, but non-existent. And then there's one in the ladies' room, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely sexism.
Sure. All right.
I've changed the baby on dirty bathroom floors before because there's no dang.
Yeah. Koala station.
One time at one place, I just went outside and changed the baby on their front lawn. I was like, "This is your fault.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it on your dirty bathroom floor. So you know what? I'm doing it right out in front."
Yeah.
"Hey, everybody, changing a diaper." I'd tell you where it was, but I'll tell you off the air where it was, and you'll kind of laugh and go, "Oh yeah, I can see that," but I don't want to drag it on the air, so I'm not going to do that sort of thing. Ben, you sometimes buy into key moments or turning point moments that you can look at, like, and here's one that I can buy into. I don't know if I can buy into it all the time. But like the turning point moment of Cam Newton's career was when he didn't dive on that fumble in the Super Bowl and the Panthers lost.
Ben Simmons passing on the layup in the playoffs. There was, and there were doubters. Don't get me wrong, doubters like you were there. But there was a clear, like, everybody jumped off the ship at that point.
Right.
Everybody abandoned the ship when Ben Simmons passed on a wide open layup, so out of fear that he would get fouled and have to go to the free throw line, that everyone said this guy will never be a winner.
So, Pat Riley's Heat culture is over. It's over.
Yep.
I mean, for a team to lay down like that. Oh, Christian.
Yeah, Christian's not here.
Was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And what the Heat are not supposed to be about. And I don't blame them 1 second for losing in this series. But to go out like that
With nothing.
is totally goes against whatever Heat culture, whatever they've been trying to sustain since LeBron is over.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to go into a rebuild. They really don't have any choice. They don't have a player to build around. Nobody signs in free agency anymore, so I don't see them signing Jimmy Butler. I guess they trade for Butler from Philly?
They did.
Or did they sign him outright? I kind of thought they signed him.
They might have signed him outright. No, they traded Josh Richardson. I think it's who. It was nothing. It was a nothing trade, if I remember correctly.
Like that?
Thank you, Hatch. Yeah, Jake Hatch filling in today for Christian, who's currently on It's a Small World. He texted us a photo. It's his 15th time writing it.
Yeah.
He really likes it.
Well, he's a small man. So like it's a small world.
Like small in person or small in stature?
Both.
All right, man. I'm not dragging Christian while he's gone. That's Ben Anderson, right there. But you get what I'm saying, and I don't think they have to move on from Spo because I think Spo's still a great coach. Maybe if he doesn't have the stomach for a rebuild, which I could actually see. But I don't see a way out from the culture or whatever. If that even exists, only goes so far. I can't believe we saw that team. I was just shocked by the way that they really just did not show up. Like in any way.
They were down 50 the whole game.
Yeah. 1-2-3 Cancun.
Yeah.
Doesn't even sum it up.
Yeah, they're interesting. They're a team I have said I would watch semi-closely for Jazz players if they want to try and rebuild on the fly. You're right. They are entering this stage where they need to start acquiring real talent, and the question is, can they drop to the bottom first? This was actually an important year for them to make the playoffs because if they didn't convey, they had lottery protection on their first-round pick. So if it didn't convey this year to the Oklahoma City Thunder, again, the Thunder own every draft pick in the NBA, it seems like, if they didn't give it to them this year, it became unprotected next year.
Okay.
So they didn't have a chance to tank next year because they wouldn't have their pick. And then from the horrible Terry Rozier trade last year, they owe what would have become an unprotected first, I think, to the Charlotte Hornets 2 years from now. So by conveying their pick this year, they control their own pick next year, and then the Hornets get a protected pick in 2027 or whatever that is. I know that's complicated, but what it basically does is it does allow them to drop to the bottom next year if they decide to do that. And Pat Riley may decide that that's the best option. And as Bam Adebayo, who is probably their best player, if you want to argue Tyler Hero, I would say, maybe he was better this year slightly. He did make the All-Star team. But there's a reason they've been trying to trade him as long as they've had him, including the Donovan Mitchell talks in 2022. They do probably need to fall to the bottom next year. So I think you're right, and that is the death of the exceeding expectation Heat that have existed since LeBron left. I think that's a good point. I think that's kind of what they've always done.
Tried to keep it afloat, be competitive.
It did.
They've been good.
Made finals.
They made a finals.
Made several conference finals.
Again, they've had a great coach. They're overachievers. They turned out to be the perfect landing spot for Jimmy Butler at that point in his career. By the way, it was a sign and trade. So
Yeah.
basically it was a free agent
Yeah.
signing. There were some players involved. It was actually a 4-team trade, but it was a sign and trade. So he could have just outright signed with the Heat. So he basically did that. But I don't see where the Heat are going. And I just did to see. I don't know, Ben. Am I overreacting to that performance? That like That's one of those things, that's like a really bad quarter. You know what I mean? Like, things have got to change. You can't bring that back. Like, sales was so low this quarter, we've got to make serious adjustments. You know what I mean?
Bam said there are going to be a lot of changes this summer, knowing how the guy with the silver hair works. And he's talking about Pat Riley. I'll be curious how long Pat Riley sticks around and does this. He's been doing it for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we see a Brad Stevens-like situation in Miami where Eric Spoelstra moves from head coach to front office. If he doesn't want to do the day-to-day as heavy lifting as he is right now as the head coach, that could potentially happen. But yeah, there's going to be changes, and they need changes. I'll be curious if they go backwards, or as I mentioned, do they look at a team like the Jazz and say, well, you're selling Lowry Markkanen for maybe a little less than market value, or John Collins or Colin Sexton or whatever. There's some usable pieces there.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see how it goes. But they've known this is coming, honestly. And everybody paints Miami as this victim in the Jimmy Butler situation, and they kind of were, except for that they made the decision not to extend him. They made that once they decided, like, we're not going to extend you,
right.
The clock is ticking on trading him, and Jimmy Butler then just ran out of patience. You forget that he said, okay, well, I'll show up and I'll play and I'll sit on it while you guys figure it out. And then they weren't figuring it out. So he got impatient, and that's when it went so badly at the end. But that's it. People come away with the impression that the Heat had no role in that. That Jimmy just woke up one day and thought, you know what? I don't like South Beach anymore.
Right. Was this the last year of his deal, or was this he had a player option next year? I can't remember. Whatever the option was, they could have extended him. They did given him a max deal, and they said, well, you're in your mid-30s. We think we're done with you. Essentially.
Right. Which is their right to do and might not actually be a really bad decision. But Golden State's going to extend him, and he's going to be one of those overpaid old players.
Yeah, and they already did. I mean, they gave him a new contract when they traded for him.
Yeah, right. So now what does Miami do? I don't think Bam nor Tyler Hero are good enough to build around going forward. So do you do, and I'm just basically restating what you said, do you try and refit enough that you're competitive in an Eastern Conference that basically sucks? Or do you do what the Jazz are doing?
I'm trying to rack my head about the NBA right now and just search through teams. I'm wondering if anybody is Bam Adebayo away from winning a title. He would really help the New York Knicks. Right, like a defense. He's an A-plus defender. He is truly, I know he's not like the Rudy Gobert type of shot blocker we think of. He's truly one of the 5 best defenders in the NBA. He can guard everybody. He's super reliable. He's always in the right spot. So a team like New York could really use him and would give them a boost in their front court that they need defensively that they don't have otherwise, and actually is maybe the type of...
The Knicks don't have any resources, though.
Right. So. You're having to give up one of your other stars. You're having to give up OG Anunoby.
And in this scenario, the Heat wouldn't even want him.
And then, yeah, right. Then the question is, are the Heat just wanting to drop back, or are the Heat wanting to stay afloat weirdly? And probably not. Probably not. You're probably wanting draft picks for him.
I think probably they do try and stay afloat. That's been what Pat Riley has done this whole time.
He has.
In fact, in his entire career, I don't think Pat Riley has he ever embraced a tank.
They did the super cool bees.
Okay.
What's his name? Beasley from Kansas State.
Yeah. But then flipped him for...
I can't remember.
No, flipped him for... Well, no. They chased him off the team because they needed the cap room to sign Chris Bosh.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they signed LeBron and Chris Bosh as free agents in the same offseason, and they had to gut the whole roster just to get the amount of money to get under the cap to do it. So they traded him for nothing.
They Michael Beasley, of course. I think they drafted him number 2 overall, and then you're right, chased him off after a couple of seasons.
Yeah, he was the guy who was who took a picture of his new tattoo, which was on his back. It said "Super Cool Bees."
Uh-huh.
And mind you, this is what year would that have been? Ben?
2008,
something like that.
Yeah.
Big old pile of marijuana in the background.
Big bag of weed on the table. Okay, Michael.
And fired that sucker out to his social media followers. Like, hey, everybody, Super Cool Bees here. Check out the new tat.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, there's a tattoo. Also a huge bag of weed on
that. Is that a bag of weed back there?
The NBA was not as lax then as it is now about the use of marijuana, nor our country as a whole.
No judgment from me then or
Sure.
or now.
Sure.
But I am going to judge your observation skills or your intelligence in a way.
Yeah. Mental acumen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get past looking at that super sweet tattoo.
Right.
Didn't notice the background. Man, he didn't pan out.
No, he averaged 19 points a game his third year in the NBA, which was fine, but never really became a guy. Was always a little bit underwhelming. Anyways, neither here nor there. So, yeah, I am curious to see what Miami does.
But see, that's an example. That's part of the problem with the tank. Mm-hmm. Like, you tank it out to get a number 2 pick, and you pick super cool bees.
Who was kind of all year expected to be the number 1 guy in that year's draft. He had been the best player at Kansas State for a long time.
Invest a whole season of suck, and you come away with super cool bees. I mean, that's the argument of why the tank isn't worth it. I mean, the upside is Wemby or whatever, or Tim Duncan, because San Antonio somehow is just magic. That they tank one season, or I know this latest rendition tank more than that, but with Tim Duncan, you take one season and you get a generational player. You know what I mean? But there are a lot of super cool beasts out there. There's a lot of Nerlens Noel. I mean, people get focused on the process with Philly. They drafted a lot of nobodies. They got Embiid, but they got a lot of Michael Carter Williams and Markelle Fultz and Nerlens Noel and Joel Okafor?
Jaleel, yeah.
Jaleel. I was like, Joel, that doesn't sound right. Jaleel Okafor. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, I guess the question and where it's interesting here, and the Heat's approach to building and the Jazz's approach to building is somewhat different right now. But what constitutes a successful tank? That's the hard part about tanking for me in this conversation, and not criticizing the teams that do it, because teams have had success, but it's like, what has to come of it for fans to think it's successful, or for a team to think it's successful? Because if you tank and you get the number 2 overall pick, that was really good. You defied the odds. If the Jazz get the number 2 pick, they have gotten a 26% chance of landing in the top 2 and beaten the 74% chance of falling out of the top 2. That's successful. Okay, but then it matters what the player does, right? Not just did you get the pick.
The pick is not the scoreboard.
Yeah, the pick is not the scoreboard.
The pick is not the scoreboard.
Okay, then it's the player.
Yep.
And then it's how good does the player have to do?
Yep.
Like, was the 76ers rebuild successful?
No.
You got an MVP. You got Joel Embiid. He's 6th best player in franchise history. You didn't make the conference finals. Maybe they made one. I don't think they did. So, was that successful? You got an MVP trophy.
And how many years were they the worst team in the league?
4 or 5, right?
Maybe
it was a long
more.
time, yeah. I mean, they got 3 number 1 picks in that stretch. Am I right? Markelle, maybe no. Ben Simmons. They only got 2 number 1 picks in that stretch. Anyways,
I didn't even bring up Ben Simmons.
And one of them they traded up for, yeah. I mean, it was a mess. So that's the hard part about me with tanking, and why I almost resist getting into tanking conversations, because I actually don't think tanking is all that well defined. If you want to just say it's as simple as losing games to improve your draft pick, okay, whatever. The Jazz have had a great tank. They've got the best odds of finishing top 5. In fact, we know they're going to finish top 5. But it takes 4 and 5 steps beyond that to determine whether it's successful. So I don't have any idea what this is going to look like for the Jazz, and when it's going to be successful. Because I look at this same draft as Malik Beasley. Number 1 was Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose had one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. Won an MVP his 3rd year in the NBA. And what else? It's kind of nothing.
Well, got ground to dust by his coach.
He's going to be one of the only MVPs who doesn't go to the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
He got hurt.
Yeah, right. Okay. So was it worth it? And even then, if I remember correctly, they jumped up the lottery to get him.
And that might be a bad. The injury thing is, you kind of got to throw that out. Unless you, I mean, if Joel Embiid turned out to be truly injury prone or whatever, I guess you could, because you knew that going in, right? The Jazz draft Curtis Borchard and he doesn't play for him. It's well, are you really surprised? The guy didn't have a foot.
Minnesota gets the 3rd pick in this draft. This is 2008. They get O.J. Mayo. They trade him on draft night for number 5, Kevin Love. Kevin Love is the only player of this group that has won a championship. He didn't win it with the team that traded for him on draft night, Minnesota, but was a very good player. He did land you another number 1 overall pick in Andrew Wiggins, who also didn't do anything for the Timberwolves, but was another guy that everybody in the league wanted to tank for with the expectation he was going to be a superstar. But he was really good. Kevin Love is a very good player. Russell Westbrook went 4 overall to the then Seattle Supersonics. And this is a good draft. Like, Derrick Rose is a great player. Russell Westbrook's a great player. Kevin Love's a great player. You get 2 legit Hall of Famers in that group. Brook Lopez is also in this draft. So, again, it's why I have a hard time talking about tanking. It's like, what does it have to yield for it to be successful?
A star. Period.
A star, yeah, maybe that's it.
But the good news for the franchise, though, because those are high stakes. But when you realize you don't have a star, it's like 3 years down the road, so everybody's forgotten about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's this player better turn out to be a star because you only won, the Jazz win 17 games?
Mm-hmm.
Legit the worst team in the league.
Uh-huh.
The fans are pretty bent about it.
Worst team in franchise history.
I think the fans are fairly understanding, but like...
A huge section of the fan base has either checked out, not permanently...
But checked out. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to get a star player to make that worth it. But the Heat have found ways to get star players that aren't necessarily getting the number 1 pick.
And that's...
to bring the convo full circle. So we've talked about this. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
There's a lot of ways to do it. And if you want to do the Heat culture thing, which is we think our culture is strong enough to take on, remember the reputation Jimmy Butler had when he got traded to the Heat. He's the shining star that is celebrated now and is the best player on the team that made the finals and is rough around the edges, but is kind of a savvy old vet that everyone loves and fits well in Golden State. He was relatively untouchable when he was leaving Philly.
I thought, didn't Philly like him?
They ended up with a big fight of picking who.
No, they picked Toby Harris over him. I mean, that's the thing, but that wasn't because Jimmy was a malcontent.
But he had been somewhat, and he was.
They
still
just picked the wrong player.
That's true, and he was still though pretty fresh off of what had happened in Minnesota and what had happened in Chicago to land him in Minnesota. Like he had unsuccessful stops where he graded on people, and he grades on everybody. He graded on Miami.
But he was only in Philly for a year.
He was not there that long. You're right. But, look around the league and how did Dallas get relevant post-Luka? They traded for Kyrie. It really boosted them. Kyrie was certainly nearly untouchable at that point because of all his off-the-court stuff. You look at a guy like John Morant right now who 2 years ago was a top 25 player in the NBA and is now viewed as somewhat toxic. If you think your culture can bring him in and fix him, it's a good buy low opportunity.
Yeah.
Memphis needs to deconstruct. They probably need to get rid of some of their players. And, I'm talking about both the Jazz now. Is that a guy you'd be interested in bringing in if you were to get a top 3 pick that you're not going to trade? Because I don't think Memphis thinks they're going to get a top 3 pick right now for John Morant. But the Jazz have all this other draft capital and other players that can match salaries. Could you trade that for John Morant? You've got your top 3 player, and then you keep a couple of your veterans. Or maybe you make another trade and bring in another guy, and all of a sudden you've accelerated this rebuild. It's also very much what Miami has done. You could go and trade for John Morant, bring him in, Heat culture him, quote unquote, and he and Bam Adebayo are actually a pretty cool combo. It's actually a pretty good duo of players.
I'm curious to see what happens going forward, but I don't know if you can come back from a performance like that.
It was really bad. It was a real dog. It was one of the worst we've seen.
I flipped it on in the second quarter, and then Payne watched it for pretty much the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I was shocked by the score.
Yeah.
Shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
I did. I took a nap during the first quarter and woke up, and in the second quarter, it was 40 points. I thought, oof. It's the reason I was staying up for the late game. It's the reason I was excited to watch the second game, and it was a much better game.
You know what's funny is because I set it up. My wife had something else going on last night, and so I had set it up that I was going to get to focus on basketball. Mm-hmm. I even found the other activity for my kids. I was like, we're getting the Play-Doh out. You guys are going to have a good time. Dad's watching basketball. And then I flip it on.
Not worth watching.
Oh. So glad I got this free time to watch basketball.
Carved out a few hours.
Yay.
Yeah.
I was actually eager for the halftime show. Like, oh, man, halftime show. It's something I want to watch. All right.
That's when you flip over and watch the hockey.
I should have, except for, well, I don't need to get into that.
All right. It wasn't good either. 6-2 blowout by the Stars wasn't any good.
That was the nightcap.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com coming up next. Want to remind you can win big every week on Win Ticket Wednesday on the KSL Sports Zone. This Wednesday, win tickets to the Summer Unity Tour featuring Collective Soul and live with special guest Our Lady Peace. July 13th at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Get your tickets now at livenation.com or simply listen all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. More next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
The accusation of tampering happens all the time. And it's just dialed up a little bit more into the transfer portal, even before they're in the transfer portal, and that money is being thrown out there.
Now in today's college football, how do you control that? How do you police that? Unless you can prove directly that those coaches are making the offers, I don't know how you can police that.
Look, sometimes you dedicate yourself to doom scrolling. This is just mouth open, like gossip scrolling on the transfer portal. So it's so much fun to read some of the stuff that goes back and forth. Fan bases have zero chill. I mean, the accusations are wild, and it's awesome because it's brand new. We've talked about how wild it is when coaches don't like dudes walking across the field to say good game to the other team because they don't want to risk a coach getting in somebody's ear on their helmet and going, hey man, we'd love to have you.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for Top 3 Stories of the Day at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Hatch, filling in for Christian today. Where are we starting today?
Golden State Warriors took a 3-1 lead last night. We got 4 playoff games on deck tonight.
And Steph played like garbage.
Yeah, he did not have a great game by Steph's.
Jalen Green is not it. He's not it.
No, he's had a tough series.
He's had a tough series.
He had his 38-point outburst in their lone win and looked awesome. And I mean, he got benched last night. He didn't play, I don't think, at all in the fourth quarter. He certainly wasn't on the court to close the game. They went away from him because he's not a good defensive player. And it is a reminder of where the NBA is trending towards, and it's not one-sided guys.
Nope.
You're way better off being pretty good on both sides than really just a great offensive player and a terrible defensive player. You really can't do that anymore. To your point, one of the things you've talked about, and I think very astutely with Walker Kessler, is the free throws just have to get better. It's don't worry about the threes. I know you're shooting threes right now. Get free throws up to 70% because last night the Rockets probably win that game if they keep Steven Adams on the floor. But they start doing hack of Steven Adams late, and Ime Udoka freaks out and pulls him off the court, and all of a sudden they're not getting offensive rebounds anymore. They go to Jabari Smith, and they blow a lead. And it's like, well, yeah, kind of right. Steven Adams couldn't shoot a free throw at all, so they go away from him because it's basically a turnover if he's out there. But at the same point, his backup is not good enough to help you win the game. So you got to be able to do everything a little bit.
Negates an advantage the Rockets have. When they can play Şengün and Steven Adams together, they are huge.
And as we know, Golden State's always been a little small.
Yes. And so if you can't play Steven Adams in the fourth quarter, you just throw that advantage into the garbage.
Yep.
And we love Şengün. He's not a great defensive player. And
By any means, no.
And so all of a sudden you've created an advantage for the other team.
Right.
So it's a huge deal. Those little details are a big deal. And back to your point about being a two-way guy. Yeah, I think to add to what you were saying, not only one-way guys, but one-way scorer only.
Yeah, specifically.
I'm a scorer who doesn't play defense. I think that player is on his way out. And I'll throw, I don't think why Luka will ever be considered one of the best ever into that category. Nor James Harden or any of those players. I think you got to be a two-way dude, and I think you got to have really multiple skills.
It's Nico Harrison's bet. He's betting that Luka, as good as he is offensively, his weaknesses defensively, which are atrocious. He is an atrocious defensive player, will outweigh the positives he does ultimately. That at the biggest moments where Luka can get you to the biggest spots, he will let you down because he doesn't play both sides of the floor.
Why didn't the Damian Lillard trade work?
Right.
Because Milwaukee was a defensive team. That was their identity. They had at the time, best defensive player on the planet, probably best player on the planet in Giannis. And Drew Holiday was a defensive guy. Chris Middleton, when healthy, is a defensive guy. Brooke Lopez is a defensive guy. They were a hard-nosed defensive team. And you swap out Holiday for Lillard, who's a one-way guy and overlaps with Giannis because he needs the ball all the time. It's like you're surprised it didn't work.
Why have we talked about Jimmy Butler elevating his game to being a top 5 player in the playoffs? Awesome two-way player.
Yep.
Why is Drew Holiday so valuable? Awesome two-way
guy.
Why do we talk about Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns with the but kind of feeling every time you mention the Knicks? They're good, but they're not going to play defense when it matters most. And it might get you a first-round series win, which Knicks fans will probably take right now, but they're going to get wiped off the floor by Boston, which is constituted entirely of two-way players.
It's why Donovan is going to fall short.
Yeah.
Donovan is not a two-way guy.
Yeah.
Part of that's not his fault because he's not huge, but he's vulnerable on that side. Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell was kind of a failure as a backcourt defensively because Donovan couldn't play big and couldn't play defense. And I think the same thing about Donovan and Garland. Yeah, how are they going to match up against the Celtics? Poorly.
Probably not great. Bucks Pacers tonight. Pacers can close it out with a win. They're up 3-1.
They will.
Same with the Knicks and the Pistons.
Ugh.
Those games have been very close, but the Knicks have had the closer to escape and get those victories.
Pistons just are a little too taped together.
And they're young. This is the first time Cade's ever been in these situations.
Yeah, but I mean, even their players who aren't young are just. I mean, if you're leaning on Dennis Schroeder, you know what I mean?
Right. Tim Hardaway Jr., even though, he absolutely got fouled on a three-point shot that should have won them the game, and it would be 2-2 in this series
Or
right
Toby.
now. Yeah, right.
So the Pistons are a couple of dudes away.
Celtics have a chance to close out the Magic tonight. They most likely will, though they've got a bunch of injuries. And then the Nuggets and Clippers in the nightcap at 8 p.m., Game 5 in a series that's tied 2-2 and is more than lived up to the hype going back to
It has, but it's silly. It's tied 2-2. The Clippers are the better team. I don't know what. Yeah. Are
Clippers
they playing with their food a little bit?
Blew a big lead in the first game and ended up going to overtime and losing. And then had to erase a huge deficit in the last game. But again, It was the crazy buzzer beater by Aaron Gordon to win that game. So it's been fun. It's been a fun series, but I think a lot of closeout games tonight. I think 3 of the 4 series that are played tonight get closed out.
I meant to go back and watch that again because I was watching that game while we were keeping Post Malone waiting at Chili's. And saw a bunch of replays. Who missed the box out? Did you happen to notice? Because I meant to go back and watch it.
Kawhi was right there, but I think Kawhi was boxing out. Michael Porter Jr. was out on the perimeter. Kawhi was in the mix. Yeah.
I'm going to Google it because they should cut that player.
It might have been Chris Dunn.
If you immediately cut that player, you're not welcome back at the facility anymore.
Yeah.
You just lost a playoff game because you didn't steal on a box out.
Yeah.
For an obvious guy.
Yeah. You were ball watching.
Crazy.
Yep.
Let's number 2. We got 2 more to go. What am I doing?
Not even gloves.
Yeah.
Number 2, where did the local undrafted free agents land?
And man, there was a lot of them. It was mostly undrafted free agents because we only saw a couple of locals get drafted. I think Tyler Batty, maybe the most surprising player that didn't get drafted, he ends up with the Vikings.
I think he could be an NFL guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He got $250,000 guaranteed on that deal he got with
good for
Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm surprised more locals were not drafted as well. We can run through this list, though.
Caleb Etienne, signed by the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see if he had a very good final year at BYU. Had been somewhat underwhelming before that, but I think that's a nice landing spot for him. They certainly need help keeping Joe Burrow upright.
Let's see. Jacob Robinson landed with the Niners. Blake Mangelson lands with the Steelers. Connor O'Toole, the Seattle Seahawks. Mekhi Bernard, the Tennessee Titans. Zamaya Vaughn lands with the Minnesota Vikings. Karini Reed, the Denver Broncos.
Feels like he's going to make that team.
Junior Tafuna.
Also feels like he's going to make
the Houston Texans. Wyatt Bowles, the Los Angeles Rams. And let's see, minicamp invites, Darius Lassiter with the Eagles. Braden Keim with, the Bears and the Chiefs. Connor Pay with the Raiders. Jacob Garcia with the Dolphins. Spencer Petras with the Chargers and the Chiefs. We're getting down the line here. Kyrese White with the Broncos. So a lot of these guys been getting opportunities.
Did Brant Keithy land anywhere?
I haven't. No, I have not seen that.
That's tough for him.
Ben, it's the likelihood of making it as an undrafted free agent is not great.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. But I would point no further than to our very own Hans Olsen, that if you keep your head on straight and do the things and play the game and all that stuff, you can carve yourself out a career. So rooting for all of these guys, and hopefully they're getting good advice on what to do.
Go to a mini camp. Earn your way onto the scouting team. And slowly work your way up through injuries. You know, it's just how you do it, the practice squad.
Listen to the coaches.
Yeah.
Do what's right for your body to get it where it needs to be.
Make
Find
a
a
little bit of money
role.
and get picked up.
Don't be a headache.
Yeah. Don't start slapping fans.
No. But, I'm sure Hans could tell you this, but others could tell you too, as undrafted free agents, you do get to pick your spot a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you got good advice on that, whereas, you look at the roster and maybe there's an opportunity to play your way up.
And even though there's a real chance that it's ruined college athletics forever, hopefully some of these kids do have a little bit of money in their pockets already, so they're not cast out in the world penniless if they don't make it.
What's next?
All right, number 3. More trouble for Bill Belichick.
Wow, Ben. This is my new favorite story. So Bill goes on CBS Morning News and does an interview, and they show a clip where his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, bullied in, right? You said you watched it yesterday and said, no, you're not answering that.
We're not answering that. We're not talking about that. What it was just asked about, how did you guys meet?
How did you meet? Like the icebreaker that has been used at dinner parties.
Yeah, right.
Since the dawn of time.
Right.
Oh, how did you guys meet?
Yeah.
I think I've answered that
1,000 times.
1,000 times.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to answer that, which is crazy. So CBS kind of said or talked about why they included that answer, and TMZ and others are reporting all the info. But that basically CBS is saying that this happened like 30 times, and even at one point, she stormed out of the interview, and old Bill followed her, and it delayed taping for about half an hour. So I guess they had to talk her back into the room or something. Like, they included it in the story because her erratic behavior became the story. It started about Bill Belichick's book, but turned into his girlfriend. And there are a couple of other things they've added that nobody from the University of North Carolina, nor the publishing company. Usually the publishing company has a PR team for you when you're doing these interviews to promote your book. There was none of that. It was just this gal. There have been other reports that he's requested she be CC'd on all his correspondence with the athletic director.
Yeah.
Sources inside of North Carolina are reportedly concerned about her role in all of this. This is a pretty wild story.
It's low stakes because who cares? But it is such a weird mishandling of all of it, including a press tour with CBS Morning News, and then like where Gayle King is. It's like, that's not the brass tacks, capital J journalism, 60 Minutes trying to come and do a takedown.
Yeah. No, this is promote your book.
Yeah, this isn't sharks in the water trying to tear Bill Belichick apart. So for him to be this, I almost said the word impotent. That's not what I mean. For him to be this benign and for her to be acting so overbearing in the situation is bizarre. You're doing it in the wrong arena. You're creating enemies where there's no enemies to be found. I don't get why this became the contentious issue and why they're doing it in this location. Very strange. But it does make me certainly think that this North Carolina thing's going to be a catastrophic failure.
Oh yeah, this is headed in a really bad direction. In fact, let me pull up the quote here from a source within the University of North Carolina. Let's see here. Quote, growing sense this could become a problem. Unquote.
We're getting the ick from this whole situation.
Listen, I am one the import of who you choose to
surround yourself with.
Yeah, spend your time with, spend your life with your partner or husband, wife, whatever, however you go. Like, that choice is a really important one because that person is going to have a monstrous role in your life. So what, choose wisely, I guess. This screams to me like manipulation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's the best comparison. Haven't we all worked with somebody with that has a spouse that's manipulative?
Yes, man or woman. Yeah, right. This is not restricted solely to the girlfriend.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've known a lot of girls with bad boyfriends or husbands, and you're like, oh, you probably should get out of that relationship. It's gonna ruin everything you're doing. And
Giving you really bad advice at very least.
Yeah, and that's what it looks like is going on here.
But, I guess love is a funny thing, Ben. It's a funny thing. Makes you make bad decisions.
Exclusively for
like
Bill.
making a scene in front of CBS News. Oh my gosh, are you kidding?
Yeah. It's not a great look. We'll see. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah,
Doesn't impact
really,
me at all.
No, not in the
Watching
slightest.
the train wreck, it's kind of enjoyable.
And I'm fine with North Carolina losing. That's fine. Want to remind you, you can nominate the U Sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We'll have more Jake and Ben straight ahead. Stay tuned. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Utah Jazz select.
Do you believe in karma? Well, we here at the KSL Sports Zone absolutely believe in creating good vibes for the Utah Jazz in their hopes of securing the #1 pick in the NBA Draft Lottery. Go to KSLSports.com to donate $2 to Intermountain Primary Children's Hospital.
Wait, why $2? And isn't that the jersey number of...
Bob, it's just a random number, okay? Just stick to the copy.
It's a real 2-for-1. Your donation will help Intermountain Primary Children's Hospital and help the Utah Jazz capture the Good Karma flag in their hopes of recouping winning basketball in Utah.
Fingers crossed, guys.
Donate your $2 right now at KSLSports.com.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Don't miss Minky Monday on the KSL Sports Zone. Tune in all day on Monday, May 5th, to win Minky Couture blankets, the original classy blanket. Minky Couture makes the perfect Mother's Day gift, and Zone listeners get 50% off with code ZONE50. Don't miss Minky Monday, only on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ben, I know Shedeur Sanders has gotten a lot of bad news. I mean, nobody wants to get drafted by the Cleveland Browns, let alone be the second quarterback drafted by the Cleveland Browns. But here's some good news for him. The Toronto Argonauts have added him to their negotiation list.
Okay.
Which means if old Shedeur comes to the CFL, the Argonauts basically have first dibs.
Okay, good for him.
They have the exclusive rights to sign him.
Good for them. What does success look like in year one? I don't mean long term, in year one for Shedeur. Is it just make the roster and keep your head down?
That's it.
Does he have to start a game?
Nope.
I think you're probably right. In fact, I think it's probably better if the last time we hear about Shedeur is he signs a guaranteed 1-year deal and you don't hear about him
That's
anymore.
what happens to fifth-round quarterbacks who are the second quarterback taken in that particular draft.
By that player, by that team. Yeah.
By the way, and we didn't talk about this, did you see the video of the front office when the pick was made?
Yes.
They had the GM and the scouts and all that, and they're showing it on national TV. Now, Ben, describe to me how normally these shots go.
High fives, ecstatic,
We got
shaking
our guy!
hands.
Hey!
Especially when you get like a steal. When you get a guy who you had as a second round grade in the 5th round and you trade up to get him, there's generally like real excitement.
Oh, dude, it never ceases to amaze me. You could still tune in the like 6th round, and every single pick, there's people in that shot making out. They're so excited. Because you got to put on it's the we got our guy. Nobody until now ever has like admitted that they didn't get who they wanted in the NBA, the NFL, in whatever draft. The immediate reaction is always, well, we got to celebrate this like we just won the lottery. The reaction from the Browns front office.
It's a golf clap.
Was there even clapping? I just saw straight frowns. Maybe a golf clap, maybe a...
It looked like Jimmy Haslam called him and said, "You're taking this."
That's
guy.
That's the rumor, right? That's what happened. Is the owner who has done this before and made them draft Johnny Football, stepped in and made them take Shedeur, whereas obviously they went into the draft wanting a quarterback and they wanted Dylan Gabriel. They have, what is Shedeur, their 5th quarterback?
Correct, yeah.
Is it that
Yeah.
low?
Well, so you have Joe Flacco.
Flacco 1.
Kenny Pickett, 2 hands.
Tiny hands.
Tiny hands.
Pickett.
Uh-huh.
Deshaun Watson still on the roster.
Still technically there.
Yeah.
And then
now
you have
2 rookies.
Dylan and Shedeur.
So honestly, he may get cut. He may not make it to the roster in August.
Yeah.
So success for him would be making the team.
Yeah. Or anywhere. Honestly, make any roster.
Yep.
Get cut, make a practice squad somewhere. Like we said, that's what Tyler Huntley did his first year. He didn't get drafted, but go make a practice squad. That's good. That's success. Stick around.
Right. Not playing for the Argonauts would be success.
Yeah. And even then, if you ended up playing for the Argonauts, it's better than a lot of quarterbacks do. It is pretty wild that considering where this conversation was, what is it? Almost May? I mean, when did BYU play them in the bowl game?
December 27th.
Yeah, right. Like Christmas, Shedeur versus 5 months later. It's a totally different world for him.
Oh, I'm really concerned if I'm Shedeur. If I'm watching that video of the front office, because they're
It's like
gonna
4 months. Yeah, that's wild.
They're gonna cut me as soon as they possibly can.
Yes,
I'm like the owner's nephew. As soon as they could possibly, management could possibly fire me, they're going to.
those whatever first training camp reps that Flacco's in the ice bath because he's going to be there the entire fall camp because he doesn't need to play, that go to Dylan Gabriel, and you're just getting the very last couple of snaps of practice
Just the
because
scraps.
everybody else is getting opportunities. Yeah, Tiny Hand Pickett's is getting a lot, and then Dylan Gabriel is getting whatever's left because I don't think Deshaun Watson factors into their future
either.
in the slightest. But yeah, that's going to be tough to swallow. And to be the second quarterback drafted after they passed on you 6 times, that's hard. That's really tough. What a bizarre and ultimately memorable situation.
You can't swag your way into camp now, right? You can't show up to camp in his helicopter.
Oh, this is the ultimate. And again, you've talked about it, not to open a can of worms. Talking yourself into an identity, whether it was Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year or recently Ben Simmons Defensive Player of the Year. Draymond tried to do it, Defensive Player of the Year this year. Talking yourself into being a first-round draft pick at quarterback, Lonzo Ball might be the last player that got talked to do a top-3 selection.
God, just bamboozled magic.
Yep. but he
Picked where he wanted to go.
Yep, he found the sucker.
Man, that's too bad for Magic. Passed on Jason Tatum. Yikes. Yikes. And it basically enabled one of the greatest trades in NBA history as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Moving
5,
back
easily.
from 1 to 3, still getting your guy.
Yep.
Having the guys that went before Jason Tatum be Markelle Fultz
And Lonzo.
and Lonzo. Markelle Fultz might be my comp. I was thinking about this. He might be my comp for Shedeur, honestly.
Okay.
With that hitch in Shedeur's throw.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Markelle Fultz's
Yeah.
free throw there for a minute?
Also, the weird story there is that his mom was the one who kind of messed everything up.
I
Wanted
thought
to
it was like
redo
his
everything.
uncle.
It kind of was, I think, ended up being the cover. But my understanding, having
was
talked to
his
some
mom?
people, was mom.
That's rough.
Yeah. And for Shedeur, it's dad.
Look at that weird double thing. He's gonna get. Honestly, it takes so long to get rid of the ball. Oof. We'll see. But being the 5th quarterback on an NFL team, I wouldn't buy in Cleveland. Let me put it that way.
But I will tune into a Browns preseason game, and it will be picked up on CBS and shown to everybody because everyone wants to tune in to see it.
You know what's sad? It's kind of like Bronny in a way. When he ultimately does not play well or play at all, he's going to be the focus of all the attention.
Yeah.
He will not get the grace to just be a normal quarterback trying to make the roster. It'll be...
That's the impossible spot he found himself in.
It stinks.
The amount of attention he was going to get is only worth it if you're a first-round pick. But if you're not good enough to be a first-round pick, you're not good enough to get that type of attention.
Nope.
And teams don't want both. If you're number 1 pick, give him all the attention. And even then, it's a headache for some people. Jordan Love's been a huge success for Green Bay. The fact that he was talked about for 2 or 3 years before he played was probably a headache for everybody, including Aaron Rodgers. So you've got to be worth it. And if you're not worth the headache, they're just not going to draft you.
All right, more Jake and Ben coming up straight ahead. Stay tuned. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.